everybody. I'm Ariana Hones, and I am the Southeast organizer with Wisconsin Conservation Voters. And today we are here with some folks from Plastic Free MKE, and I'm just going to have them introduce themselves. So Marylou, if you want to start.
Yeah, hi. Thanks a lot for doing this. And my name is Marylou Lamonda, and I'm one of the people that helped co-found Plastic Free Milwaukee in like July of 2018.
Amazing.
And I'm kind of a, I guess you'd say, outdoors and environmentalist, volunteer and sometimes paid organizer for a lot of years. But my main work is I'm a techie as far as how I make a living, but I just do that and to try and help me support to do the work I'm really passionate about.
Great. So I'm Anna Ostermeier. My role with Plastic Free MKE is actually through Milwaukee Riverkeeper. So I'm an AmeriCorps member serving with Milwaukee Riverkeeper as the sustainability coordinator. And then a big part of that role is being the volunteer coordinator for Plastic Free MKE.
Awesome. Steve?
Hey, I'm Steve Zbrozek. Thanks for having us. I joined Plastic Free MKE last year in April, I think, and became a core team member around September. And professionally, I work in marketing, but I love to get outdoors and enjoy our beautiful city, and love it even better when we can sport a nice, healthy environment.
Yeah, awesome. So the first question that I always love to think about, even from my own experience, but also when I'm talking to other people that are involved in environmental activism, is what was a first experience that drew you to community activism and getting involved in the environment, or just kind of getting involved in your community? I feel like those are always so interesting about how we get started. So what are some starting stories about how you got involved?
Well, I could say, yeah. I'll say for me, probably a pivotal thing is I'm born on Earth Day, and knowing it was Earth Day the whole time I grew up, I think really informed me in really deep ways that I've just always been committed to trying to make, where we live, where I live, wherever I've been in the world, just hopefully create change.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Happy almost birthday.
Right.
And actually I feel like we have time for both. So Steve and Anna, if you both want to share your stories, that'd be great.
So yeah, I'll start. My story is not, my origin's probably not as cool as Marylou's, but throughout college, I participated in a ton of different philanthropy organizations, planning events, and while it's not necessarily activism, you're definitely advocating, getting the community involved in order to support organizations and causes that otherwise couldn't stand on their own. And have always kind of held that belief that you should be really involved in your community ever since college. And my first possibly true activism, especially environmental, was actually with Plastic Free MKE. And I think maybe halfway through the second meeting, I sort of had that moment where I was like, oh, what am I? Did I just join an activist group? Is that me now? But I think it's really, really important stuff to do, and I've absolutely loved it so far, and very, very happy that I have joined an activist group.
Yeah, I can jump in. Well, my background's in environmental studies, but I think really it was a certain election that really lit that fire inside of me to jump in more in an activist role. And then when I was looking for a position, I realized that a lot of my work has been basically telling people how to recycle. And it's become really clear that that is not that silver bullet solution that the plastics industry would like us to believe. And so I think that's why I really gravitated towards Plastic Free MKE, because it's really about addressing those more systematic issues. So yeah, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, awesome. So I think that maybe Marylou, you might be the best person to answer this, but if not, y'all can definitely jump in. But what was the turning point for creating Plastic Free MKE, like from its origin story? Kind of what was the reason to create that group?
Well, I think exactly, just spinning off what Anna said, is that a lot of us realized way more than a couple of years ago that recycling wasn't really working, and that doing litter campaigns and picking up litter and all of that. And I had known for years that Coca-Cola basically really started making money when they went from glass to plastic, because then they made their product our responsibility for cleanup. And so that's just proliferated with every kind of product you can think of. And in the US, we, you know, the interesting thing is a couple of the co-founders, we actually met at the recycling center, which I had never been to, but I always wanted to go see what Milwaukee was doing. And when I saw that there was a semi-load every day of unrecyclable stuff, and then I knew how much never even gets to the recycling center, and how many plastics we can't even recycle because they're not made to ever be. They're basically made to go straight into the garbage because they can't be recycled. It was overwhelming. And I met one of the other women that helped start Plastic Free at that recycling tour, and we both just started talking and riffing off each other. And I'm like, I am so tired of doing this by myself. Do you know anyone else? And so she said, yeah, I know a couple people. So we had a meeting at a coffee shop, and we just all decided we needed to call a community meeting. And from that moment, once the community meeting happened, from that moment forward, we never stopped meeting every month, and then lots of other meetings around that. So it was really about, instead of picking up and being responsible for all this corporate garbage, is we wanted to turn off the tap to plastic. That's really what it's about. Like, if you come home to a house and the water has burst, which has happened to me before, what's the first thing you do? Do you grab a mop and clean it up? Or do you turn off the water source? And, you know, that's what we're about. We're like really about turning off the water source, or the plastic source is really what it's about. So, yeah. So that restarted, and we had one initial meeting, Urban Ecology Center. Fortunately, I know the folks there. I said, would you be willing to donate your space for an evening? And they said yes. And we did this breakout groups, and everybody shared their issues about plastic, and then it just kind of grew from that. We didn't even know what issues we wanted to work on per se, but it was something that people could all kind of like go, it's everywhere, and what are some of the first things we can do? So it's just evolved over time as to the initiatives we've taken on.
Yeah, it's kind of overwhelming when you look around your house and your lives and see so much plastic. And I think with that in mind, I'm wondering, like, so obviously, like, I think just your examples that you provided of like going to a recycling site and just seeing, you know, how much gets, you know, is not able to be recycled just in our current system that we have set up. But what are some kind of examples of where we're seeing plastic really show up in Milwaukee and in Wisconsin and globally, like in terms of the plastic problem? Like, where are we seeing the implications of kind of our inaction when it comes to plastic, especially corporate plastic? Whoever wants to answer.
Yeah, do you want me to answer that, or Anna, you want to say something to that, or?
Oh, you can go for it, Marylou. I can always add too.
I would say where it's showing up is, I mean, Lake Michigan gets, you know, I mean, I'm a boater. I mean, I'm a kayaker, and there's plastic all the time in Lake Michigan, and it has just grown unbelievably. It's in our water. It's in our beer in Milwaukee. It's in our food. It's literally in the air. They now know that we have microfibers in the air, and we eat at least, even if you have, quote, a clean diet where you're not eating a lot of stuff that's in plastic, you're still ingesting like a credit card's worth every week of plastic in your body. They know that every fish in Lake Michigan has plastic in it. If it's not whole pieces, it's little microfiber. We have plastic in our bodies. It's just everywhere. It's showing up they've found it in the highest Pyrenees in France, down to the deepest trenches in the ocean, and in the air. So it's just, and you know, everyone knows about the gyres. Well, the gyres aren't just some big floating island. They're actually just like a swamp of plastic, both above and below, and it's everywhere, and it's in our food chain. It's just and they know that it's not just the plastic, it's all the toxins in plastic, and how that's like really having endocrine disruptors in children. Maturity's happening soon. There's all kinds of things in both the chemicals and the plastics that are affecting our lives in ways that we don't even know all the repercussions. I mean, it's just really being in the last 10 to 15 years. So yeah.
Is there anything else you all want to add, Anna or Steve, about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, to Marylou's point, plastics, there's so many different issues that fall under the umbrella of single-use plastics, right? And I think what it comes down to is that it's an intersectional problem. So you look at, the ecosystem impacts. We've all seen like the really sad video of the turtle with the straw in its nose. So yeah, it's having major impacts on our ecosystems, but like Marylou was saying, it's a major public health concern too. And it's also very closely tied to climate change. So that's another dimension of it. So realizing that there are all these different dimensions to the issue also helps us identify that the best way to tackle it is by bringing together lots of different organizations and stakeholders, volunteers, community members. So yeah, I think understanding that nature of the problem is its many problems.
Yeah. So that's a really great segue into my next question, which is like at its kind of core, because obviously this problem is ginormous. What is the mission of Plastic Free MKE? What are y'all trying to do?
Yeah, so I'll take that one. The mission for Plastic Free MKE is to really create a community that doesn't need advocacy groups to get people to stop using single-use plastics. As Marylou had said earlier, we really want to focus on turning off the tap. And to Anna and Marylou's point earlier, plastic touches every single life in many ways that we don't even know is happening or want it to. And because of that, and because it's such a systemic and ubiquitous issue, it's going to take a full community involvement and community effort. So not only do we have the mission of creating a city that doesn't need groups like ours anymore, we're doing it in a way that I think provides a lot of accessibility to almost any community member, which we see as the only way to get to that type of future. So whether it's joining as a volunteer, helping plan, execute events, or even as simple as choosing a lake-friendly restaurant, which has been certified by our lake-friendly program, that uses less plastics in their supply chain, to learning, picking up tips, learning different facts, helping educate each other as community members and inspire the next round of activists and the next round of community members to reduce plastics in their own lives, until we get to a point where that tipping point where we can start turning off that tap, because people recognize the value of our environment, and they recognize what a problem convenient single-use plastic is.
Yeah, so tell me more about the Lake Friendly certification program, and then also just the other programs in general that Plastic Free is kind of working on in terms of just like big picture projects.
Yeah, Anna, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I can start with the Lake Friendly program, and I'd also just go back to the point that every single program we do is both volunteer led in some capacity and also volunteer supported. I think that's a really important and somewhat unique piece actually of our movement. So definitely worth acknowledging that. But the Lake Friendly certification program is basically a certification scheme to help local restaurants, bars, cafes, and breweries reduce their plastic. So we have a list of criteria. Basically, the main materials we're really hitting on is those plastic utensils and straws, styrofoam, which is particularly harmful, plastic bags, and a few other items, really those like heavy hitters that we know that there are alternatives to. And we guide each business through the process of doing that. So we'll provide them with like different examples of products that they can switch to. And once they've made that switch, we also will help support them, right? So it's kind of a mutually beneficial type of program. And of course, they're also being responsible for their community, right? Like they're helping Milwaukee become healthier, become more environmentally friendly, more sustainable. And in turn, we're helping to support them through our communications platform. We have them listed on our website. We give them like a decal for their door so people know when they enter that business that they're supporting a business that cares about our community. So that program is, yeah, we've put a lot of resources into that one because it's really impactful. Another big piece of what we do is public awareness. So that happens at our monthly meetings, like we've mentioned a few times. That's happening when we're tabling at different events. We present to lots of different community groups. We do interviews like this. All that constitutes as avenues for public, increasing public awareness. We're also working on a plastics education toolkit. So working with educators, working with other organizations that are part of the Plastic Free MKE Coalition to create this toolkit of resources for educators to help teach kids about plastics and about what they can do, with one piece of that being actions for what they can take in their school and in their community. We also do, I mean, not so much now, but we also work with different events to help them reduce waste, reduce plastic. We've also been working with like Milwaukee Ballet, for example. Marylou's been spearheading that. So different performing arts organizations, really a lot going on there. And then something else that's in the works right now is our policy and advocacy working group. So we've definitely done like letter writing campaigns in the past. We've, distributed petitions, but we really want to bring in a little bit more strategy. So we're bringing together different organizations that also have that policy piece, like the Environmental Collaboration Office provides also some information. But basically, that's kind of where we're coming at it from, a more of an activism piece of it. But since we have volunteers leading and constantly new voices coming in, we're always kind of starting up new initiatives, which is really exciting.
Yeah. And it's okay. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I would add 3 things. Those are all really great. Is we've really pushed for runs in Milwaukee to not use plastic water bottles. And we've been really, the Lake Marathon was the first time, which is thousands of people, that they used no plastic water bottles and they used compostable cups. And then there's been a couple other walks in the city that have become plastic free, which is really exciting because festivals use the most plastic at, really a lot at one particular point in time. And then we're also trying to work with entrepreneurs who are trying to develop products that are truly recyclable, because 90+% of all plastics are not ever recycled. They're actually downcycled into a lesser product, and most it only gets done like one time, sometimes two with the same product, and plastic lasts forever. So that's another thing, is to work with them. And another business we've done a lot work with is composting, because there are so many compostable products that take the place of plastics, and we really want to see the city of Milwaukee really create a true composting system. So we've worked with the compost entrepreneur, Compost Crusaders, Melissa, and done some research work, and also really supported her company, because they're really all about creating compost that we can actually include these compostable products, because they can only be commercially composted. You can't compost them in their backyards. So there's a lot of research and development, and we've been partnering and really trying to advocate for people to do that and take on composting, being part of the commercial composting system, especially businesses, and then even there's a residential pilot programs going on. So that's another big area that we've really tried to put some energy and thought and support in. And the policy thing is a whole new kind of area that we're moving into, and we're trying to help companies like Milwaukee Ballet or other businesses that really want to be known as doing the right things. So
so, well, first of all, y'all are doing a lot of good stuff. I'm like tired listening. No, it's so good though. It's so much stuff though. And I think it's so cool, especially the piece that you were describing, Anna, of just like, as new volunteers come in, sometimes the direction also changes and new ideas are kind of sparked, which is like, I feel like so cool. It's so like grassroots and is what, organizing at its best usually is. So that's awesome. But the question that you both were kind of alluding to, that I want to ask about now is kind of, what is the current state of plastic policy and legislation in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the United States? I know that it all kind of varies, so in kind of whatever degree you want to talk about, but I think Leah mentioned this to you all, but a lot of the work that we do at Conservation Voters is with policy, specifically related to environmental policy, legislation, kind of keeping tabs on what's going on locally, but also at the state level. So yeah, I'd love to hear about like, what's the policy around plastic in Wisconsin or the US?
Absolutely. So this answer would have varied quite a bit pre-pandemic, but we are in the situation we are in. So I'll kind of answer both sides here. Both as a state and Milwaukee locally and really as a nation, the plastic free movement has had a ton of momentum. One example, today is actually 414 Day, so happy Milwaukee Day. Today's the first day that the Milwaukee plastic straw ban is actually in place. And that is something that maybe it's because there's not as many straws going out with takeout food as it is right now, but that is a ban that's remaining in place as it is. We also had some great policy proposals, both on the county level and the national level earlier this year. So on the county level, County Supervisor Marina Dmitrievich proposed a ban on forever plastics being used on any county property. So that means any of the parks that extends to the airport, which leases land from the county, that extends to the things like the art museum, to any of the county buildings, could not use any more forever plastics on those premises. So that is one that I believe got put on a bit of a hold locally due to the coronavirus, but that we hope gets picked right back up and implemented. And then on the national scale, we had Senator Udall and Representative Lowenthal present the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act, which is a really, I think it's kind of like a dream act in a lot of ways for people who have been following and advocating for plastics policies. It puts a lot of fiscal responsibility back on the polluters, the creators of the plastics and the plastics industry, the snacks industries, who are really responsible for the systemic amount of plastics that we have. So those are a lot of examples of many, many exciting things that are happening both at the state and national level. But as you may have heard, with the pandemic, the plastics lobbies and the plastics industry and big oil industries have not wasted a second. I think the saying is never waste a crisis, and that's I believe that they own that one. They're doing a lot to either repeal or temporarily repeal any sort of plastic bag bans. Those are bans or taxes where people going through the grocery store either not allowed to choose a plastic bag because they've been just banned outright, or have to pay something like 25 cents extra to take a plastic bag. It encourages people at the end of the day to use their reusable bags. But they're spreading some really shaky at best science to get people to stop using their reusable bags by saying that they can carry the coronavirus. And like I said, that's very, very shaky science at best right now. So there's definitely some headwinds. But one thing I guess I would say is there's a lot to look forward to as we kind of come out of this pandemic, and hopefully that's sooner rather than later. And that is, this is not a time for us to take our foot off the pedal. This is a time for us to focus. This is a time where if you're going to produce any sort of educational piece or interview Plastic Free Milwaukee members on Facebook, then that's probably media that's going to be consumed. This is time to make sure that you are still writing your senators, still writing your county supervisors, and making sure that they understand that these policies have not lost our sight, not lost our focus. And additionally, we're going to have a lot of government stimulus opportunity coming out of this. There's going to be a second tranche of money coming through the CARES Act, which has yet to be defined, but will be a lot more focused on being a shot in the arm for our economies. Much of that money is going to go to the state and local levels. And us as constituents, advocates, and activists are going to have a great amount of say in creating the sorts of policies and the sort of economy that we want coming out of this. And so I just say we had a lot of momentum going into this. The counter side is definitely not slowing down, and I don't think we should be slowing down either, because we're going to have a lot of opportunities for some really positive outcomes.
Yeah, and you were alluding to a very important piece of it, of having, local leaders or governmental leaders that really care about this and want to champion these sorts of policies and pieces of legislation. So obviously we just had a crazy election and elected, some new folks, some old folks, but kind of just in general, how can people that are listening to this or starting to care about plastic or have cared about plastic for their entire lives, like how can they be kind of effectively advocating for a plastic free Milwaukee, a plastic free, you know, Wisconsin, and hopefully a plastic free world as well? Like, what can they be doing? Who can they be connecting with?
Absolutely. And definitely, Marylou, Anna, feel free to chime in as well. But I think it's important to learn who some of your local leaders are. And it's great. They were just on your ballot. Some of them should be fresh in your mind. Every news article will tell you who your new alderman is, or who your county executive is, or who your county supervisor is. So that's a great place to start just today even. And learn what some of those functions that they do are. I got to tell you, when I joined this, it was like Civics 101 for me. I had no idea what a county supervisor did. I had no idea what an alderman did. And having an opportunity to work with some of our aldermen and learn what they do and figure out what kind of policies they can advocate for or where their power can go has really helped me feel like a better participant in our community, in our government. So that's something that I would say day one. Just look up who your local government is, and then there's from a state level, from a national level, looking up, you know, House of Representatives and Senate. The League of Conservation Voters actually has their wonderful track record. I'm gonna botch the actual term, but they actually grade your state
A scorecard.
What's that?
A scorecard is what we call it. Yeah.
They'll actually grade your senator on environmentally friendly votes, grade your House of Representatives members. And if you live in a constituent in one of those areas, then those are the people that you need to be contacting and letting them know, hey, I'm a voice in your community, and this is some of the stuff that I care about.
Yeah, awesome. Anna, Marylou, do you have anything about kind of getting to know your electeds or anything like that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, we had one of our, I think it was the county supervisor came, and they said even 2 or 3 letters, they start to pay attention. And if they get 10 or 15, then it's like a major issue to them. So I think it's really important, not just emails, but if people are willing to take out a piece of paper and a pen and write letters, that's excellent. Another big thing to do is op-eds to whether it's an online, local online, or the Journal Sentinel, or neighborhood services will also put things out around any of these issues that people care about. And I think the other thing, especially at this time when people have a little bit more time, is to do a little self-education and really look at, you know, climate crisis, climate change. It's all related to COVID. It's all related, and plastics is deeply embedded in this. And most people don't connect. Like, a lot of people have said to me, oh, I came because I just wanted our city to be cleaner and plastic not to be in the lakes. But then they said when they realized the connection with the big oil and big chemicals, they said it was like such a oh, this is like something we can actually do in our lives, you know, and as a community to really stop. Because right now the oil industry, like Stephen was saying, is going crazy with why we should produce more plastics. And even before COVID happened, they already had planned on quadrupling the number of plants. They're hoping to put something like 300 plants online in the next 20 years that are just doing plastics. So those are the sort of things, and most of it, over 50% of it, is supposed to be single-use plastic, stuff that we just throw away. So I think it's something, if people get that connection between climate change and plastic and what it takes to, you know, and the impact that it has on climate change, make those connections. It it's a really kind of down to earth something that we can do right now in our lives. And then also do talk to our legislatures, do let them know it, and at the state too. You know, they could surprise us and remove the bag ban. But you know, what can the legislators do? And I think what the county's doing is fantastic. And I hope as soon as they're back in session, you know, people can actually show up at those hearings. You know, if you have 10 or 15 or 30 people show up at a hearing, they understand that people are really paying attention, because for every person that's in that room, there's another 10 they know they're representing. So
yeah,
critical.
Yeah. So beyond getting, you know, like figuring out who your electeds are, kind of getting more engaged and tuned in locally, what can people be doing, like, as soon as they finish watching this and they're like, oh my gosh, plastic is such a huge, ginormous problem. Like, what can they do? What are some next steps that people can take to kind of just take account of plastic and plastic in their lives and start to figure out how to reduce that? And obviously, again, as y'all have mentioned, like, these are really crazy times with COVID. So a lot of things that I think normally you would say as suggestions, they maybe aren't realistic for everybody, but I love the suggestions all the same in terms of like how you all are reducing plastic in your own lives.
Yeah, I can start. I mean, I think a really good place to start would be like a little plug to go to our website. We do have a pledge. And so that allows you to pledge to refuse certain items. I think that's really helpful for people who might feel a little bit overwhelmed because single-use plastics are everywhere, right? So the idea with the pledge is that it just gives you like 5 items. You can choose all of them, you can choose one of them. It's just a good place to start. So that's one recommendation I would make. Another piece, which is to just touch on what Marylou was saying again, is educating yourself. I mean, a really good source. We put out a lot of information, so if you kind of want some articles hand-fed to you, yeah, you can sign up for our newsletter through our website. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, all of that. But yeah, I think in terms of thinking about your own individual day-to-day use, it's easiest to start small. For me, I really started with like my bathroom routine. So like, where do I find a zero waste shampoo or conditioner? You know, starting with little things is really helpful. There's always places to improve. It's really frustrating sometimes. And I think another piece of that is really looking at the local businesses in Milwaukee that are providing zero waste options. So for example, Outpost is a member of our coalition. They do a lot to reduce plastic. The Glass Pantry is another great option. So looking at those low plastic businesses, and of course the Lake Friendly certified businesses. So I think that's another good way to really support our local economy too.
Yeah, awesome. Steve or Marylou, anything else in terms of just how you all are reducing plastic, how people can start the journey?
I would say the first thing I ever did in my life, and it's because I was traveling overseas and being in very remote areas and finding massive amounts in the back of these areas, especially in the Himalayas, of piles of plastic water bottle. And I was so ashamed because I knew that all of them were for tourists. And I mean, at the time I had already stopped using plastic water bottles, but then it was like, that was like 7 years ago. I was like, I am never going to drink from another plastic water bottle. I don't care how thirsty I am. I am going to get a container and always have a container. And if I don't, well, deal with it. You know, I mean, plastic water bottles are one of the most ubiquitous forms of pollution on the planet. Plus, usually the water in it isn't even as clean as what comes out of the tap. So that's the first. Number one, if you even did that, if people knew that 5 million are used every second of the day, they'd maybe think about it. Just think about writing your name on every plastic water bottle you do and where that ends up. And if that ended up in a fish or a sea mammal or whatever. So like a choice that simple. And then, as Anna said, there's so many places in our lives where we can reduce. I would say buy less and buy as much reuse items, and refuse single use. Like if you're at a restaurant and they give you a straw, say, hey, there's a straw ban, or just be really nice about it. But like, ask for a drink without a straw, ask for a container that isn't of styrofoam. Just let businesses know what you're looking for. That's a huge thing, just in your personal life, to do that. Yeah. Speak out a little in a kind way.
Yeah, and I'd say whatever you do, wherever you start, it's just meet yourself where you are. You're not going to be able to solve all of it in one day. But if you say you're not using a water bottle today, go out, get a reusable water bottle. Whatever behavior you want to achieve, make sure it's sticky. So like, find a way that's going to cue or prompt you to use it. For me, when I started bringing water bottles, I would lose them pretty much one a week. And I was like, aren't I just using more plastic this way, but it's costing me a lot of money? What I ended up doing was personalizing it. I got a bunch of stickers of things that kind of showed off my personality. It differentiated my bottle. It was a piece of my personality that I was bringing around everywhere. And it was easy to recognize. I could never mix it up with someone else's. So that was one way that I was able to just make that sticky for me. So I would just say simple things like that. Don't beat yourself up if you fail to do something. Behavior change is extremely, extremely hard. And just the fact that you're trying is something that you should recognize and reward yourself with some kindness for.
Nice. I love it. Okay, last question. And it's my favorite question, which is why I save it for the end. But so, whoever wants to answer, y'all can answer whatever you'd like. But what would an environmentally thriving Milwaukee look like, in your opinion? So this can be related to plastic, but it can kind of also just be kind of big picture, like what would it look like for Milwaukee to thrive environmentally?
So initially, when I think about that answer, the imagery is kind of like the opening to any Disney movie. It's blue skies, clean water, some majestic, previously endangered species cohabiting with humanity in a really positive way. But I think that if I challenge myself to think of someone visiting an environmentally thriving Milwaukee, not only would they see it was clean, but I think one of the biggest things that they'd be able to take away is just the difference in the community. I think they would see a lot more galvanized, engaged community, because to do some of this, to achieve some of the things that we want as an organization, the amount of participation from the community, awareness, the values shift from away from this kind of convenience and whatever I saw advertised to me toward, hey, we live in this beautiful, unique Great Lakes, Lake Michigan coastal environment, and look at all it affords us as a community. I think to be able to drive the systematic change, the innovation of different systems, and really create an environment that thrives, it's going to take a completely different community. And it's definitely a community that I look forward to being a part of fostering through things like the Plastic Free MKE movement, but would definitely look forward to living in.
Yeah, love it. Anna, Marylou, do you want to talk about your thriving Milwaukee?
Anna, you go.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Stephen, very well said. Yeah, I mean, I think my vision is similar. Yeah, I see a society that moves away really from the dominant values we have right now of consumption and disposability to a culture that has, you know, more respect for each other and respect for nature, and an understanding that we are part of nature too, I think, and a better understanding that there's so much more connectivity between us, and that includes, you know, anything in the natural environment too. I think having that deeper understanding of connectivity is what leads people to respect our environment more, because we understand that we also rely on it, that it's a two-way relationship. But like I said, I think it also ties in with respect for each other, right? Supporting each other, all working together for this cleaner and healthier Milwaukee.
Love it. Marylou?
Yeah, those are all really good. Yeah, I mean, the first thing that came up is like knowing your neighbors, being more there. I would say right now, some of the things I've experienced is just to see so many more people outside. And even if we can't get close to each other, people just seem to be friendlier and be more like aware of each other. And it's just great to see people physically moving in the outside. You know, even on the cold days you run in, you know, you see folks. So I would say more bikes, less cars. I mean, I love that some of the cities like Oakland and a couple other cities are actually closing whole blocks just for people to walk and be in the street and, you know, I mean, I would love to see that in Milwaukee. For years, I've always felt like Brady Street should just be closed down. It should just be I mean, if you go to any European city, there's these huge pedestrian areas. I mean, that would be phenomenal just for people connecting. And yeah, so I would love to see that. I think Milwaukee's done an amazing job on their rivers, and we could keep going so that they are truly swimmable. And the beavers have come back. We have coyotes, like just to see more wildlife in general, fox, all of that is really pretty exciting to have that in a city this big, and that moves not just along the Milwaukee River, but along other, you know, to connect river trails and park trails, so that like the biking trails that we have over 100 miles of biking trails, but then we actually have walking trails that connect through neighborhoods to other neighborhoods. And you could like walk the entire city through nature trails. It would be phenomenal. And there are cities like that. And more people on the water, more accessibility, that you don't need to own a sailboat. I mean, I'm a sailor. I don't own a boat. You know, community sailing club, like you can actually get on the water with kayaks, or, you know, those swan boats, whatever, just that people have more access to the outside. And then energy wise, I'd love to see, if people are going to have cars, that we have many more electrical car stations that are all solar powered, and that we do get to do a lot more solar throughout the city, and that We Energies complies with that. So it'd be really great to see like local neighborhoods actually producing some of their own energy. That would be phenomenal. And a lot more gardens, a lot more composting. We need more soil, we need more trees. Yeah, all of those things just be awesome.
Dang, this has gotten me so excited. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much good change to be made. Amazing. So is there anything else that you all would like to share for the good of the viewers? Otherwise we'll wrap it up, but I wanna, yeah, if you have any last words.
Yeah, I mean, as a volunteer coordinator, I gotta say there are a lot of opportunities. Even, you know, maybe you're not ready to take that like more activist approach. Maybe you want to be a little bit more in the background, supporting in other ways. There are plenty of ways to do that. So yeah, at our website, we have a volunteer page. Every initiative that I was talking about, it's all volunteer supported. So if any of those sound exciting to you, reach out to us, let me know. Like, yeah, at the moment, I can't run training sessions and we can't meet in person, but there are still plenty of ways that I can get you set up, that I can help you learn about what we're doing. There are still plenty of ways to get involved. So check out our website. Also, any of the Plastic Free MKE Coalition members, they also have a lot of volunteer opportunities. So like Milwaukee Riverkeeper, for example, is doing a DIY spring cleanup. Like, there you go. If you want to go outside, get some fresh air, clean up some trash, it's immediately an opportunity. So I just want people to realize there's lots of opportunities to get involved, and I can help you support you with that. So yeah, reach out. I'll get back.
Yay! Steve, Marylou, anything else?
Yeah, I would say we are grassroots. I don't think we ever mentioned that we're not even a quote not-for-profit or anything like that. We're a movement, and that's part of our excitement, is that we can kind of move towards, like, if someone came on board, like even our running things, is someone that showed up and said, hey, we want to do this run and we want it to be plastic free, and will you support us? And we help provide some volunteers for that. I mean, it's like, if you have an idea, please come and share it, and we're more than happy to work with you. And usually if you have an idea, there's 3 or 4 other people, maybe 10, that will actually support you to do that. So that, just that synergy of that, and we don't have anyone that's at the top. You know, we really are like kind of a spider web, I would say. We try and keep connected, but we are all doing different things and really trying to make it a movement. And I just think that that's pretty exciting. And who knows what we'll be doing a year from now, or even 6 months from now. I mean, everything's up for grabs. And this is a time that I'm hoping that many people that are, quote, stuck at home or whatever, that it's a regenerative time, that people are actually really thinking about how they can make a difference, what they can do, how they can step out, how they can change the dominant paradigm of consumerism and, you know, individualism and that sort of thing, and really connect. And that some of the issues of loneliness, isolation, all those sort of things will start to dissipate as we all come back together as community and connect. So yeah.
Nice. I love it. Steve, any final words for the people?
Most things were covered very well. You know, come check out check us out online, take the pledge. We hope that you'll join us in whatever capacity you can. We need your energy, we need your passion. And, you know, make sure that you're taking advantage of this time, whether that's in a restorative way, like Marylou said, or in a way to, you know, really think about and advocate for you know, the type of country, the type of state and community we want to be as we move forward through this crisis. And you know, stay strong, stay safe, and last but not least, challenge yourself in one way today, whether it's saying no to something or replacing a single-use item. Just challenge yourself in one way today and follow through. Thank you.
Yay, thank you so much. Okay, well, that's all we got. Thank you. I super appreciate it.